Hello and welcome to this week's encouragement from Christchurch Baptist Church. I'm really glad you've joined us. It's a big week, isn't it? Because on Thursday we hear a review of the measures that have been put into place for the lockdown. This week the government will be discussing whether it's right to start relieving some of the lockdown measures. So we wait, don't we, with anticipation this week at what we will hear on Thursday. And of course on Friday it marks the end of World War II. We celebrate VE Day. 75 years ago, people were wondering when the war would come to an end, wondering when they would hear the news that it was over. There was uncertainty and anxiety around, difficult lives and suffering that had been experienced, and looking forward with hope to a day when it would come to an end. And we too, don't we, at the moment can identify a bit with that. We are in uncertain times. We are fearful of what is happening. And we look forward to a day when hopefully this will come to an end and the coronavirus enemy will be defeated by some means. In these days of isolation, I found myself thinking about characters in the Bible who experienced times of aloneness and isolation themselves. And I've been thinking recently about the life of Hagar. Now, I don't want to tell the story of Hagar this morning. You may well know it. If you don't, I encourage you to look up Genesis chapter 16 and read the story. Hagar was an employee of Abraham and Sarah, and Abraham and Sarah didn't treat her too well, and she ran away from her employment. She was like a servant. She was a maid servant to Sarah, and she ran away. She ran away to the desert, away from all that she knew was familiar, and she found herself alone and isolated and in fear of the future and all that had happened in the past. And here alone by the stream, an angel of the Lord came and spoke with her. God comes and meets with her. What we find is that Hagar is not out of God's reach. She isn't lost to God, even though she might feel very lost and alone. And in our waiting, in our apprehension of the news that we'll hear on Thursday, in our isolation and aloneness, God comes close. And just as he asked Hagar, where have you come from and where are you going? So as we spend time with God, as he comes close to us, he asks us, where have you come from and where are you going? Well, Hagar in the story, we find that she only gets as far as telling God where she has come from, because she doesn't get a chance to tell him where she is going, because a conversation ensues. And what we find is that when God comes close, when God comes near to us in our aloneness, he wants a conversation. He wants to speak with us and talk with us. And he talks to Hagar about where she is going. But there's a particular phrase that I want to think about this morning, and it's as God and her speak together, and he tells her actually to go back to Abraham and Sarah. She says this after God has spoken to her. The Bible tells us, she gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me, she says. I have now seen the one who sees me. Hagar has discovered in this time of isolation that God sees her. Hagar's far away from the altar that Abraham would have worshipped God at, but she discovers that God is still there. He's still with her. She's not hidden from his sight. She's not too insignificant for God to reach. There was nowhere that Hagar could run to be away from God. He was there watching her, waiting for her, wanting to love her. May we know in our isolation, wherever we are today, whatever we're facing, however near or far we might feel from God, whether we're feeling afraid or lonely or even forgotten, God sees us. But that isn't everything, is it? That's not all. Hagar realises that the God who sees her is also willing to be seen, willing to be known, wanting to be near, close and present with her in her isolation and her distress. today, in the uncertainty that we face in these strange times, in the apprehension that we might feel about Thursday, let's not forget that God is there for us. He wants us to discover him. He wants us to connect with him, to know him and to love him. He sees us, but he also wants to be seen by us. So my prayer is that whatever your circumstances, whether you've had weeks now of living on your own, or you face the busyness of a house full of children and trying to find a moment to yourself, I pray that you will grasp the truth that God sees you today, but also that he is longing to be seen by you. He's longing to be in relationship with you, to share life with you, a life that is full of joy and of hope as he seeks to reveal his will for your life to you.